The Free Thinker Show. Ignite your mind, challenge the norm.
All right, buckle up for this one, because this deep dive has it all.
Yeah.
Crime, international hackers, and a plot twist that you absolutely won't see coming, all connected to the election that's right around the corner.
Yeah, we're talking real cloak and dagger stuff here. The Justice Department just came out with what went down in their latest operation, Operation North Star. And let me tell you, it's not your run-of-the-mill crime crackdown.
Okay, so break this down for me. What exactly is Operation North Star, and what makes what they just did different from, like, every other year?
So Operation North Star is like this big nationwide thing they do to catch people who are on the run from the law, especially those who have committed violent crimes. They just wrapped up their 4th phase of this operation, hitting 10 cities all across the U.S. But what makes this Operation North Star different, what really sets it apart is, well, the background to the whole thing. This is the first one they've done since those 4 law enforcement officers, remember? The ones who were killed in North Carolina during that Marshall's task force operation. This is the first Operation North Star since then.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's right. And it's, when something like that happens, it makes you realize just how dangerous this work really is.
No doubt about it. And honestly, the Justice Department is fighting an uphill battle. Ever since the pandemic hit, we've seen this, unsettling rise in violent crime, and Operation North Star is a major part of how they're trying to combat it.
So they're laser focused on getting the absolute worst of the worst off the streets.
Yeah.
Right. What kind of results are we looking at here? What impact are these operations having?
Well, the numbers themselves are pretty impressive. Over 3,400 arrests just during this latest phase of the operation. And get this, over 200 of those were people wanted for homicide.
Wow.
They also managed to get over 500 guns off the streets, not to mention a whole lot of drugs and cash they seized. But, it's often about more than just the numbers. Remember that horrible case in Missouri with that guy who started shooting at a car meetup?
Yeah.
The one where that 14-year-old was killed? They caught him because of Operation North Star.
It's heartbreaking when you hear about a young life cut short like that. But it does make you realize why these operations are so important. They're all about keeping our communities safe and stopping those kinds of tragedies from happening.
Exactly. And the U.S. Marshal Service, they can't do it alone. They rely heavily on working together with state and local law enforcement agencies to track down and arrest these individuals. It's this, huge coordinated effort to make our communities safer.
It just shows you how interconnected everything is. A crime in one city can be tied to a much bigger network that stretches across the country, or even the world. And it takes a massive amount of coordination to dismantle those networks.
And speaking of being interconnected, this operation brought to light something even bigger, something that could undermine the very foundation of our democracy.
You're talking about what's been happening with Iran, right?
That's right.
This is where things get really, really interesting and a little unnerving. Yeah, the Iran situation. So the Justice Department came right out and said it. Iranian hackers have been going after both the Trump and Biden campaigns.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty big deal.
It is. It's, it really makes you think about the lengths that some of these foreign actors will go to try and mess with U.S. elections.
Yeah.
They're bold, that's for sure.
It's just, you wouldn't think they'd go after both sides. You'd think they'd pick, the candidate that's more aligned with what they want to see happen, right?
Right.
So what's the angle here?
Well, and that's what I think is so interesting about this. It seems like it's not so much about trying to get one specific candidate elected.
Yeah.
It's more about causing chaos. It's about making people lose trust in the system itself.
Okay.
It's about pushing their own agenda, whatever that might be. It's about weakening the U.S. from the inside out, and a weakened U.S., a U.S. that's divided against itself, that's a U.S. that's much more vulnerable to pressure from outside forces.
So if that's the why, what about the how? What were these hackers actually doing?
So in one case, they actually stole information from the Trump campaign, and then they sent that stolen information to people who were connected to the Biden campaign.
Wait, hold on. So they were trying to, stir up trouble between the two campaigns.
Exactly. Trying to, create paranoia, make them distrust each other, maybe even hoping to sway campaign strategies or how the public viewed each campaign.
That's crazy. Did anyone on the Biden campaign actually look at that stolen information?
Well, from what we know so far, it doesn't seem like it. The intelligence community has said that no one on the Biden campaign actually interacted with the information.
Okay, well, that's something, at least. But it's still a big deal. I mean, it just shows you how determined these foreign actors are to interfere with how we do things here.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And they're playing a dangerous game here. I mean, the stakes are incredibly high, especially this close to an election,
Well, that's what I was going to say.
which kind of begs the question, what's being done to stop them?
Yeah, because if this is happening now, what's being done to keep the actual election safe? I mean, people are really worried about this, and they have every right to be.
I agree, and rightfully so. This is serious stuff. But the Justice Department, they're not just sitting back, they're fighting back, and they're doing it on several fronts. For starters, they've indicted 3 Iranian hackers who were directly involved in those cyber attacks.
So they're going straight to the source, going after the individuals responsible.
Exactly. Now, these guys are in Iran, so it's not very likely that we'll see them extradited to the U.S. to face trial anytime soon. But it sends a message.
Yeah.
It tells them and the world that they're international fugitives, which makes it a whole lot harder for them to move around and do their thing.
So even if we can't catch them right now, there are consequences. They're going to think twice before they just waltz into any country that might decide to send them back here to the U.S.
You got it. And the Justice Department, well, let's just say they don't forget easily. This kind of stuff has a way of catching up with you eventually.
That's a good point. So besides the indictments, what else is being done?
Well, they're also hitting them where it hurts, their wallets. The Treasury Department is coming down hard on Iran's financial networks, specifically the ones that support these kinds of malicious cyber activities.
So we've got indictments, sanctions. They're making it harder for these guys to move money around. It's a good start, but is it enough? Can we really protect ourselves from this kind of interference, especially with technology changing so fast?
That's the big question, isn't it? It's a constant battle, and there's no easy answer. This digital age, it's like a whole new world out there, and sometimes the old ways of doing things just don't cut it.
It does feel like we're always playing catch-up. Like, right as we figure something out, they've already moved on to something new. So how do we get ahead of this?
Well, it takes a multifaceted approach. We're talking stronger cybersecurity for sure, and better collaboration between countries to track down these actors. And of course, we need to keep investing in the agencies, like the U.S. Marshal Service, that are on the front lines. But there's another piece of the puzzle that's just as important.
I bet you're going to say education.
You got it! We all have a role to play here. Think of it as a shared responsibility. We need to be savvy citizens, think critically about what we see online, especially during an election year when there's so much misinformation flying around.
So it all comes back to that old saying, don't believe everything you read on the internet.
Exactly. A healthy dose of skepticism is a good thing these days. Verify your sources, be wary of anything that feels like it's trying to manipulate you, get you all riled up, seek out objective reporting, look at things from different angles, and be careful about sharing information if you're not sure where it came from or if it's accurate.
It's about being more mindful, right? Being more discerning about what we consume and what we share, especially in this day and age when things can go viral in a heartbeat.
Couldn't agree more. And this actually ties into another tool the Justice Department has, the Rewards for Justice program.
Oh, right. They offer rewards for information that can help prevent terrorist attacks or catch terrorists, but it applies to cybercriminals too.
It does. They've expanded it.
Hmm.
The State Department can now offer rewards for information about people involved in major cybercrimes against the U.S.
Wow, I had no idea that they're pulling out all the stops. But what's the takeaway here? What message are they trying to send, both to Iran and to any other country thinking about trying something similar?
The message is crystal clear. We will not tolerate this. By going after indictments, issuing sanctions, and offering rewards, they're showing the world that there are serious consequences for messing with U.S. elections. It's about setting a precedent, drawing a line in the sand.
Sending a strong message, that's for sure. Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, any final thoughts for our listeners? What should they take away from all of this?
I think this whole situation just goes to show how complex and interconnected our world is. What might start out as a crackdown on crime here in the U.S. can quickly turn into something much bigger, something that speaks to global power struggles and the fragility of democracy. And protecting that democracy, well, it takes all of us.
It's not just up to the government to fix, right?
Exactly. It's a group effort. We have to stay informed, think for ourselves, and be aware of when someone might be trying to mislead us. And maybe most importantly, we need to make our voices heard in this election. A healthy democracy relies on its citizens taking part, making their voices heard.
Well said. It's a good reminder that we all have a role to play in shaping the future, making it what we want it to be. Stay vigilant out there, everyone, and thanks for joining us for another deep dive.